Welcome to another exciting episode of the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Brad Sugars, the Chairman and CEO of Actioncoach, and today we're diving into the minds of some incredible business leaders, uncovering their real stories, strategies, and the secrets behind their victories. It's not just about success, it's about the journey, the hurdles, and turning challenges into opportunities. So let's jump right into it.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Arthur Rosaria from Actioncoach in the Dutch Caribbean. Today I'm interviewing Chris Schutrups from the UK. Chris is the CEO of the Mortgage Hut. Chris, good afternoon now in the UK.
Hello.
How are things doing?
Yeah, really well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I was wondering, actually, so you're in the Dutch Caribbean. I thought that you said my Dutch surname better than I do here in England, so now that explains it. So, it's a bit cold here, but everything's going well.
All right. Well, actually, it's a bit cold in Curacao as well. I went running this morning and it was 25 degrees Celsius. Just like 70.
Sounds terrible. That sounds like a hottest day here. I think it's about 3 degrees outside. I just came back. I spent the weekend in Venice, being Valentine's Day. So, and Venice was pretty cold and blustery for sure.
All right, Chris, let's start. What are the top 3 things you think you did that made you successful in business, and how can others follow in your footsteps?
I guess the top 3 things are I guess my number one thing that started me on this journey actually was being an optimist and naive, which sounds like a strange place to start. But I guess I had a vision of what I wanted to achieve. And if I'm honest, at times during this journey, I probably would have said, if I knew how hard it was, I might have rethought it. But the truth is, it's about having good people around you. And I think about the journey that I went on with the first business that I had, and I have like multiple businesses now across multiple sectors. But I could probably do what I did in 5 years in 1 year, is the truth, because you don't know what you don't know. And as you become and I guess if we think about my coaching journey, because I've been an Actioncoach customer for quite a long time, I've had multiple coaches. One of my first coach actually retired. I hope I didn't push him into retirement for his stress that he retired. And so I guess, the coaching journey that I've been on has changed as I've become a more competent business owner. So I guess optimism on the plus side, naivety maybe on the negative side is one thing that really has helped me drive, and that vision of where I want to be is the first one. I guess the second thing that's made me you say successful, it's perception, isn't it? But like, that's kept me on this journey is being persistent and tenacious, and being stubborn really is the truth. 6 months into my first business, I had no money. I'd gone from earning really good income to earning like £200, $250 a month. I had a pregnant girlfriend. I had a house to pay for, and I went and took 2 job interviews actually at that point. And I nearly gave in, and it was my pride and my ego at the time, being a young 21-year-old, something like that. And I kept with it, out of being stubborn. And, I was at the point where I used to go over to my parents' house and essentially raid their fridge because I had no money to buy any food, is the truth. But, it paid off, because actually one of the companies that I went for an interview with, we eventually acquired and bought. And then another one of them's a key business partner for us now. So, it was worth staying on that journey for sure. And then I guess, the third one has to be surround yourself with people who are better than you and know your flaws. I, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, I know I'm inconsistent. So I'll generally try and avoid putting myself in processes and systems, because normally I mess it up. But I have people around me who are far more competent at the roles that they do, and they're incredible. And so, it's easy to look again via perception like relatively successful, or like you're doing a great job, when you have amazing people around you doing all the moving pieces in the right places, I would say.
Well, that's thanks for sharing. I mean, persistence, optimism, and surround yourself with good people. And yeah, that's get out of your way, so to speak. Don't try to do things that you are not good at and or don't give you energy. Make sure that you have people who do that much better and love it. Then
Yeah.
it's a recipe for success.
And not letting your mind limit you. Like, I'm guilty of it now for sure. Like, still now, like, I think the difference between you and me and Elon Musk and whoever else we compare is just our limitations that we put on ourselves, and where we get to either a place of comfort or a place of where we don't want to step into being uncomfortable.
Comfortable.
And I think as business owners, you go through like so many lashes and whippings along the way. Once you get to that relative like calmness of stability, sometimes you can, and that's fine, I guess, as well. It depends what you want as a business owner, isn't it? Like
Exactly.
I always describe my journey as a bit like Monopoly. You know, I'm trying to build the houses and get the hotels and trying to avoid the jail in the meantime is normally the way that, and I enjoy. There's a chap here in the UK that you might have heard of called Stephen Bartlett. He's like a successful business entrepreneur, sold his social media company for hundreds of millions of dollars. And I remember like reading about like him saying his most unhappy point in life was actually the day that he sold the business, because it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, I guess, in a lot of, and I suppose, it's easy for us to sit on a podcast and say how great life is and how easy life is, but actually we probably wouldn't need a coach if everything was that good and that easy. I guess it's about remembering that sunshine will normally always follow rain, and trying to keep yourself going through that, and having good people, like whether it be a coach or whether it be colleagues, mentors, whatever it may be, to sort of be able to bounce off and sound off, and even like vent to occasionally when you're frustrated about what's going on and what's not going so well in that journey that you're on.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, thanks. So you started the Mortgage Hut in 2011. I went on the website and I saw some pretty interesting things. And a couple of years ago, you guys had 45,000 customers, more than 1 million unique visitors. Can you tell us a little bit about the business? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so I started the business in 2011. It was essentially me and my dog, and I do have a dog sat in front of me now. Still, not the same dog, sadly, but I do have a dog still with me on the journey. And I started, and it was just trying to help friends, and and we're essentially a mortgage broker here in the UK. So we work with 110 different banks and building societies, and we help consumers find the best deals. And I guess if your global reach audience, there are different nuances. So you go to places like the Netherlands and people look at longer lifetime mortgages. You go to the US, for example, again, you're looking at 20, 30-year fixed rates. Here in the UK, our mortgages are 2, 3 or 5-year fixed rates. And so if I compare it directly to American mortgage brokers, because I know a lot of those, they might get sort of 2, 3, 4, 5% in commission and fees. And, it's significantly lower here in the UK, but it's very transactional in that we have multiple touch points with the customers. Every 2 years they're coming back and resecuring a rate, and we're getting repaid for that. And so, the business started with me just doing that for friends and family, and over time that scaled. Today, as a business, we have a team of over 20 amazing qualified financial advisors. They're all employed by the business, which is a very unique thing here in the UK. Normally it's self-employed, which is a bit of a harder model to build, but a much more profitable model, and also allows us to have better controls and outcomes for our customers, is what I believe. We will deal with anywhere up to 100 customers a day as a team. So we're a very busy business. We generate most of our customers organically using SEO, word of mouth. We have partnerships with some of the world's largest brands, whether it be airlines, whether it be e-commerce platforms that we would all know. And we help them support their staffs in ensuring that they have stable housing and, the best outcomes. If I think about one of our brands, we have a brand called Police Mortgages. So we work with 23 of the 48 UK police forces, and we help police officers, staff and their extended family getting quality financial advice to ensure that, if they're out there protecting us in the communities, the last thing they need to worry about is how expensive their mortgage is going to become, how they're going to pay the bills. So we're there to support them. So our team will speak to those customers. They will go through and have some meaningful conversations and hopefully help them on their journey of life, with providing a great home for their family.
Back to your beginning, why did you decide to get into this, get into the business first time? Because you've said that you've had multiple businesses, and why did you get into this business particularly?
Yeah, well, I guess it's back to point one, naivety. I guess I started my career in finance for HSBC, the global bank. Then I went on to being a stockbroker in the city. And I came out just before the global financial banking crisis. I went and worked in retail banking, which is a much slower pace of life. And I worked in a little, if your global audience are imagining a quintessential British village, very quiet. That's sort of where I was working, with all the old people coming in and talking to me, and then I went into mortgages, home loans, and worked for a corporate real estate agent and estate agent, and I was earning them a lot of money, and I thought to myself, I'm only early 20s at this point still, and I'm thinking, oh wow, if I do this myself, in a year's time, I'll have gold-plated teeth, I'll be driving a Bentley, I'll be living the dream. This is easy. Yeah, but as all business owners, and there will definitely be people resonating with this, you start that journey and you don't know what you don't know, and you don't see how difficult it is to build such goodwill in businesses, and so I started there with my desk and my laptop and my phone day one, and then I thought, I don't have any customers. This is a problem. And so I'd never found customers, I'd never booked customers, and so the answer is, I started on the journey thinking I could make a lot of money, naively, but the journey, I guess the first 5 years of the mortgage business, which is not a million miles away from being 15 years old now, the first 5 years was like my equivalent of going to university or doing an MBA. It was listening to experienced business people, looking at what other people did well, what they didn't do well, how it worked. It's business never gets easier, really, is the truth. The more money you make, the more profit you make, the more challenges you have with, tax and staff and, everything else that comes with it. And the bigger the numbers, the bigger the swings. But, actually, I absolutely love what I do every day. I get up and it's a lifestyle. It's not a job. And I guess on that journey that I've now gone on, where I've owned businesses across multiple industries, I'm in a position where I work in the businesses that I want to, because I enjoy them. And that's, I guess, makes your life a little bit easier.
Didn't know we started out the same. I was a banker in a previous life as well.
Okay.
Yeah, more than...
For our sins.
Yeah, exactly. So I was also into commercial lending, margin lending, mostly the last couple of years, and then a couple of years in development lending as well.
Okay, yeah.
And then, I also, met, in my case, Actioncoach, and decided that this was a lot more interesting for me. Actually, for me, it was in the beginning, I felt banking was a little bit very conservative for me. But, what then? You grow, you make more money, you grow more money.
Yeah,
and, ultimately, that's how I decided to join Actioncoach.
And what a rewarding job that you do. And I don't just like I always think to myself,
doing like you do, you're enjoying what you do, and you get paid for doing it. I mean,
which is all you can. And if you, I got asked the other day by, I think I did another podcast, and someone said to me, does money make you happy? And that's a tough question to answer, okay? Because I come from nothing. I come from like a council house, social housing, like a family that my parents worked exceptionally hard, but we didn't have a lot of money. And so it's easy to say, money doesn't make you happy. And the truth is, a certain element of money makes life easier. But when you don't have your back against the wall, and there will be business owners sat watching this who probably do have their backs against the wall, and they're wondering, how do I pay the staff at the end of the month? Or, and it's just about, and actually that's when you make some of your best and your worst decisions. Normally you can make some bad decisions, but you are probably never more motivated. But what I enjoy about like business is once you get to a certain point, and this is where like actually coaching is a tale of two halves, really. A little bit like when you go and see a counselor or a therapist. You normally don't walk into the counselor or therapist and go, oh, by the way, my life's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's not normally how it goes. And I can imagine most of your coaching conversations start with people saying, I'm not very happy with this, or I need help,
Yeah.
and you start on that journey. And I remember I've done Action Coach a couple of times. I've come back to the table a couple of times as well. And I remember that first sort of month is a little bit soul destroying, because it's sort of like, okay, well, it's like you're being called stupid, fat, and ugly all at the same time, because it's like, okay, let's have a look at all your problems. And suddenly like, oh, I've got a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But it's also that journey that you go on of, untangling and solving little problems, and that compounding effect of going on that journey. And then once you get to that place in coaching, really for me, and that's probably where I feel I am in coaching now, it's about just having that accountability so things don't slip, and so that you keep on, so you have a bit of ambition to continue driving forward, because it's very easy when the money's in the bank and it's flowing through and the staff are all happy to sort of go, oh, you know what, I'm going to put my feet up now. I've worked hard. And guess what? You end back 6 months later, 12 months later, however long it is, you end up back in the same position because you take your foot off the gas. It is what I've found, at least on my experience.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think Jim Rohn said it best, if you're doing well, you're in a rhythm, and you're exercising, so to speak, and when you get in shape, do you stop exercising? No, because this is what you do.
Because otherwise you start putting weight on again. Yeah.
Exactly. What in the beginning, what was your biggest challenge, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, what was my biggest challenge?
Besides getting customers, because you kind of forgot.
Getting customers, make it like, one of the big challenges with our industry is actually the cash flow window. So, I own some restaurants. So the restaurants have different challenges, because actually you and I going for a business lunch today and the money's in my till tomorrow. If I look at our home loan mortgage business, it's a lot more challenging, because I speak to you today, I probably don't see any income for 9 months. So I guess the biggest challenge, really cutting through the crap, I guess, which could be a load of different challenges, was that I had no money and had no free flowing cash coming through either, and I had no cash flow. And that's a very difficult, it's really easy to drive a business forward when you're well capitalized and you're able to, try a lot of different things. But I mean, I was buying customers, leads, opportunities off of third parties that were selling them to me. And, the £15, $20, say, that I would spend buying this customer was literally the difference between me not eating and eating dinner that night. And so actually, unlike my team now, who work exceptionally hard, but probably don't call the customers to death, if you like, really like a dog with a bone type of thing. I guess every opportunity was like gold dust to me. It was absolutely, that's something that is very hard to replicate in a business, actually, is to get any team member. And I guess someone once told me, they said to me, all you can expect from your team, if they put 80% of what you're doing, then they're already overperforming. And that's, as a business owner, we can get a bit frustrated, I guess, by thinking, oh, I work so hard. And you've just got to realize that it's your business. You live and breathe it. Ultimately, the big thing is with businesses is you're either going to have a huge upside or a huge downside, and probably not a lot in between. You might, you'll deal with a lot. I would imagine a lot of business owners you don't deal with actually are just consistently running. I guess they're either coming to you because they're on a downward curve and they're really struggling and can't see the woods from the trees, or they're coming to you saying, look, I really want to take this. I got a great business, but I want to, stick a rocket on the back of this and fly up to space. And so, you tend to find that. So I guess to answer your question, cash at the beginning, and that is soul destroying when you don't have it, and trying to, work out and cash flow stuff and move things around. And, it's incredible how depressing are very small invoices when you have no money.
Yeah. So what did you do to overcome this continuous cash flow shortage in the beginning? Is there one thing that you did or just worked at it and ultimately the compound effect got you through it?
So I borrowed some money off my parents, who were very working class. My father worked as a train guard, and so I borrowed a small amount of money from them. And that was one of the reasons why I didn't give up at the beginning, because I knew that the small amount of money that I borrowed from them, which was about $15,000 in total, was a lot of money to them, an awful lot of money, and I wasn't willing to just lose that. And I probably would have died trying, over failing, is the truth. And then, I'm a strong believer, still to this day, of the harder you work, the luckier you get. And so all I did was, I was up at like 5 a.m. every day. I was in the office by like 6:30. I was there till 10. I was making the opportunities. In the city where I live now, I'm pretty well known. My network, I think it's fair to say that, my network is fairly vast, and that really works well for me in business, and it works well at me being able to help my friends in business as well. But that did not come easily. I remember B&I's, which I'm sure a lot of your customers will have been to B&I. I used to have to walk my dog at like 5 a.m. because my dog didn't like other dogs. So I'd walk at 5 a.m. Then I'd go to B&I. In the UK, we have like a cooked breakfast, and, I'd be speaking to the real SMEs of the local economy, the real low turnover SMEs, and just like trying to meet for coffees with everyone, trying to follow up, really being tenacious in the conversations, and
that's what I
and actually being out there 4 or 5 times. If there was a free networking event, I'd be there, if there was. And so, and it's only more recently that I probably don't do as much networking. I still do probably 2 free things a week in some form or another, maybe a bit more targeted in industry specific and slightly different ways. But I think it was just about going out and speaking to people, and actually, as business owners, that there are business owners who are really good at doing what their business is, but terrible at marketing. And what we've all got to be, my skill, I guess, and what's led to again, my relative success across the businesses that I have, is that I'm really good at that top end funnel marketing, at driving the customers in. That's my skill. At the beginning, I told you there's a lot of people around me who are a lot better at everything, and that's nearly all jobs. The one thing I'm pretty good at is top end funnel and marketing people in, and that's actually probably the most important thing that you need to master in business.
Yeah. I mean, you're the rainmaker, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah, the storyteller as well, and I think maybe I went to an action coach thing, or someone who was a guest in action coaching once. They said, as a business owner, you absolutely have to be the chief storyteller. And that is true, and that's more than, just going out and talking about your business to potential customers. It's about explaining to your team the vision, the values, what you're trying to do, the culture, and so, even this morning when I came online, I landed back from Venice at say midnight. I got home this morning at 8 o'clock. I was still recording videos for our Slack channels for all the different businesses that I work in, getting them all aligned in where we wanted to be. Because actually, the most important thing I can do on a Monday morning is getting people G'd up, ready to go and hit the ground running again.
Yep. Oh, wonderful. How did you personally have to grow, or what did you have to learn in order to, create?
Well, I think as a business owner, you have to learn pretty much everything, and you don't realize that at the beginning. If I think I'm an expert in civil law, I'm an expert in employment law, finance, balance sheets, profit and losses, marketing. And that is, when you start a business, you have a lot of hats and not a lot of heads, is the truth. But how did I have to? I think the one thing that I've always really tried to do is to get some airtime, speak to people who are successful at what I'm trying to do. And you don't have to go to someone and say, I'm going to replicate your business. But actually, I would go and speak to people who had successful businesses in my industry. And even I've just started a real estate agency here in the UK. It's 2 months and it's performing exceptionally well. But what I did in the last quarter of last year, as I was planning this business, was I went and spoke to all my friends who own real estate businesses in the area. And I said, and twofold. One, just so I didn't surprise them as I suddenly came out there and started running against them. But also, and it worked well because, one of my friends who has a successful business started pretty much the same time as me, said to me, look, here's what I've learned over 15 years. You take it and do what you need to do with it. And so, and he probably saved me a lot of money being wasted, and also a lot of time in learning.
A lot of time, yeah.
I didn't know.
I'm glad you shared that, because many times we are reluctant to ask sometimes, people for feedback, or we'll go back to our maybe family who have no idea, what business is like, and ask them for advice. But it's much better to ask for people who are in the business, see what has worked great and what hasn't worked great. So at least we'll save time.
Yeah, and that's exactly. And the reality is, most of our businesses and most of the people that you coach, their businesses are not reinventing the wheel. They're not doing an Elon Musk first electric car. They're not doing, what they're doing is they're doing an existing business model, hopefully better. That's their aspirations normally, I think. And so to be able to understand, like, you can take 80% of what is conventional and being done and put 20% of your own spin on it, or do better at what. And so I think going out and just looking at people's models, understanding, because, if you're as cheeky as I am, you can go out and say, how much do you make? What do you charge? What's your margin? And, you're already learning more than I think about our hospitality businesses. I'm quite comfortable saying to, my competitors and my friends, who do you use to supply you with this? What price do you pay for this? How much is it? Because actually, you don't know what you don't know. And by me saying to someone who owns a significantly larger business, how much are you paying for, I don't know, oil for cookers and fryers, and if they're paying half the price, they'd probably save me a week's worth of work and horse trading about prices with people. If I know what they're paying, I can go in and say, this is what I want, this is the price that I want, and it makes it so much easier. So I think like a real secret to success is like listening and asking people. And if you take one thing from lots of different people's businesses and bring all those good parts together, and that's what our businesses are really. It's just lots of, I've taken little bits that I think, oh, that's a really nice touch, or that's a really good way to do it, and tried to make it a bit of our own, I guess.
Thank you. This is great stuff. Business coaching, you mentioned your current coach, Steve Mullins. What has he done for you, or what has business coaching done for you, and why would you, what has it done for you and for your businesses?
So, a little bit like I described before, I guess I've entered business coaching when I've faced some of my biggest challenges or frustrations, and it works. As a business owner, it's really hard to be held accountable, especially you holding yourself accountable. And it's also, time just slips away through our hands. You'll go from one week to the next, and you'll think, I really want to implement this, or I really want to do this, or maybe I should have a business development strategy on this, or do this. And before you know it, it's another year and you haven't done it. And so what I like about coaching is the accountability. I think it's a little bit like, dating in a certain way, that you have to find a coach that fits, that works for you, and Steve, who's my coach, I find very credible, clearly a very competent business owner himself, but also, I think what makes business so much easier is when you understand every business is the same. We're all doing the same. We either have a product or service to sell. Okay. And that costs us one thing, and we're hopefully selling it for more than it costs us. Plus, and then the challenge is, how do you get customers, and what type of customers do you want, and what cost are you going to acquire them at, and where do you want to be, and how? And it's a little bit like, what I like about coaching is, it's a little bit like the sort of example of the Formula One teams. You don't have to change 100% of one thing. What you need to do is move 2-3% here, 2-3% here, 2-3%, and all of those gains that you're making compound into a big thing.
Effect, exactly.
Yeah. And then it's about being consistent. And what coaching allows you to do is be consistent, because actually you have that accountability, you have that plan. You know what, life, I'm sure, from an action coach point of view, any coaches that might watch this, I would love to hear about a client they started a plan with in January that ended up exactly the same in December, because I'm pretty sure it probably doesn't happen. But having a plan and having to adapt as you go along is better than having no plan, and coming around the corner and getting. And so, coaching really gives me the other thing, I guess, that coaching allows is this world of uncertainty, and to a certain extent, sometimes in business, chaos. Having a plan and having someone to sound the plan off of, and knowing that you're not completely mental, gives you a certain element of calmness, which allows you to make better decisions and continue on that road.
Especially, I like that you said that, because many times, because it is our own business, you tend to at times be more emotional and not rational, and you need somebody to say, listen, these are the numbers, and every once in a while smack you across the head. Get you straight.
And actually hold you, because I'm a strong, as you can tell from this podcast, pretty strong-willed and pretty opinionated, and actually you need different. Yeah, I know, right? And different coaches, and Steve works well because he'll call me out on stuff and he'll hold me accountable, and and we all go through good and bad times. Before Christmas, I was I think a bit frustrated in one of the businesses, and actually I didn't really like coming to I came to the coaching. It's a little bit like going to PT at the gym, where they're like, why have you eaten all those chocolates? And I didn't really like it. But if I hadn't have been doing that, I wouldn't have got back on track and got back on course, and because life is not straight like this for anyone, or very few people. Life is straight, especially in business, because you have your personal life, you have your business life. There's always something, there's a family member who's unwell, there's a staff member who leaves unexpectedly, there's a bill, we don't have in our business, but there's a bad debtor that comes up, or there's someone who, like, all of these challenges that you face, and so having someone who, and it's a little bit like, and I don't think I've experienced it for a little while, but I have been there before, where it's a little bit like falling off a bike. Even the most competent cyclist falling off the bike can lose a bit of confidence, and having someone there to say, you're doing it good, this is our plan, this is the problem, that's cool, but we've got a solution, and how are we going to do that, is really worth its weight in gold, I think.
Wonderful. All right, Chris, final question. What piece of advice that you got or experience that you would give to another entrepreneur?
That's a really, really good question. Top bit of advice. It goes back to what I would just remember, like, it's a journey, not a destination. And, there are highs and lows, and there are goods and bads, and, and I think as long as, how I view it, if I'm honest, is as long as every day you get up and you put one foot in forward of the other, metaphorically speaking, in business, as long as you're making progress, whether that be the smallest win or the biggest win, you're probably doing more than your competition. You're probably doing more than a lot of other people. And that's what's going to drive you to success. And I think what really coaching does for me is it's less of the stop, starts, fits and starts of like, okay, I'm motivated, then I'm not. Like, it balances that out a little bit more, and allows me to be significantly more effective. So, I guess it's just about, as business owners, sometimes we can beat ourselves up, and we can, I think, I'm lucky enough that I've done business in the US, and I go and here in the UK, for example, you're seen as an absolute failure if a business fails. Whereas in the States, it's almost sort of like a side effect of doing business a lot. It's like a badge of honor, because actually in reality, it's experience. And so I think it's just, as business owners, we can sometimes beat ourselves up. So it's about getting up every day, remembering if you're doing something, it's more than a lot of people, and just keep being persistent, keep moving forward, and enjoy the journey is the truth. You're not going to enjoy it all the time. It's never going to happen, because actually that is the world of business, at least in my world, can sometimes feel a tiny bit bipolar. And that's also working in sales. As some of my businesses are in sales, and it can be good and bad. But yeah, my top advice would be proud of what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing, and keep moving forward.
Thank you, Chris Schutrups, our storyteller. Once again, thank you very much for sharing your journey with us, and looking forward to even bigger and brighter things from you guys in the UK.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, by the way.
And that's a wrap for today's epic conversation here on Epic Entrepreneurs. Huge thanks to our amazing guest for their pouring their heart into sharing their journey. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button, leave a review, share it, or hit that bell. But until next time, let's make sure you keep dreaming, take massive action, and stay epic.